It was the eve of our 8th anniversary when I saw the Instagram post. My wife's male best friend had uploaded a photo with a glowing caption, "Pregnant. Fingers crossed for a daddy's little girl to spoil." The image showed a perfect family portrait. I zoomed in closer. His arm wrapped possessively around my son and my wife, who had just entered her 2nd month of pregnancy. A bitter laugh escaped my lips as I typed a comment, "Congratulations. If it isn't yours, feel free to keep trying." Within seconds, the post vanished. The following day, my wife Rebecca stormed through our door, fury radiating from every pore. "He just wants to be the baby's godfather. Why must you be so insecure and petty?" My son Nathan glared at me with matching contempt. "It's all your fault." Uncle Damien was crying when he deleted the photo. "You're just a failure who lives off mommy's money." I pulled out the divorce papers I'd carefully prepared and offered a cold smile. "My mistake. Once the baby arrives, you three can take another family portrait." When they returned later that evening, I sat motionless on the couch, staring at my phone screen displaying the finalized divorce agreement my lawyer had sent. Several large suitcases occupied nearly half our Boston penthouse living room. Rebecca Morgan saw the luggage and frowned slightly. "Are you throwing a tantrum and planning to run away from home?" Before I could respond, young Nathan clapped his hands and cheered. "Yes. The failure is finally leaving." He ran to the dining table, glancing with disgust at the carefully prepared dinner I'd made the night before, barely touched. "No more of this bland garbage. Uncle Damien makes way better food." Watching the identical expressions of disdain on both mother and son, exhaustion washed over me like a tidal wave. Both suffered from hereditary heart conditions requiring strict dietary management. Every single day, I meticulously followed the doctor's orders: low oil, low sodium, terrified that one mistake would send them to the emergency room. Yet my son preferred the greasy, salty takeout Damien ordered for him. I took a steadying breath and spoke slowly. "Let's divorce, Rebecca." Rebecca scoffed. Damien deleted the post. "Are you still jealous? Do you want the child in my belly born without a father?" She tilted her chin upward, eyes brimming with contempt. "Ethan, if I wanted to be with Damien, do you honestly think I'd even be with you?" They were childhood sweethearts. Damien had studied abroad and only returned 2 years ago. They claimed to be best friends, acting with zero boundaries in front of me. At dinner parties, they'd feed each other like lovers. I tolerated it because Rebecca insisted it was innocent friendship and told me not to overthink things. On business trips, they booked the same hotel room. When I questioned it, Rebecca turned the tables, calling me small-minded, claiming Damien got drunk and she was simply taking care of him. Time after time, my tolerance was met with escalating disrespect. My tone remained steady. "I've had enough, Rebecca. Let's divorce." Rebecca crossed her arms, looking at me provocatively. "Divorce? Have you thought this through? You haven't worked in years. What kind of job do you think you'll find?" My voice held firm without a trace of hesitation. "I've thought it through. I don't want anything except custody of Nathan." "I don't want to be with a failure like you," Nathan declared, tilting his head back defiantly. "I want to stay with mommy." He ran to my suitcase and kicked it hard. "Go away. Take your junk and get out." My heart twisted painfully, making it difficult to breathe. I crouched down, trying to meet Nathan's eyes. "Nathan, have you forgotten who takes care of you every single day? Don't you want your father anymore?" Nathan turned his face away, hiding behind Rebecca. "I don't want you. Get out. I want Uncle Damien to be my daddy. I was the one who spent countless hours with him. When he was born, we lived at the hospital. Multiple times, critical condition notices were signed, and I was the one who stayed by his bedside without sleep. I raised him from a fragile infant to the energetic boy standing before me. Yet he felt no attachment to me whatsoever. Perhaps it was Rebecca's blood flowing through his veins. From the moment he met Damien Rivers, he adored him, calling him Uncle Damien sweeter than he ever called me Dad. I smiled bitterly. "Fine. I don't want anything. I'll mail you the divorce agreement. Remember to sign it." With those words, I dragged my suitcase toward the door without looking back. Just then, a beep sounded. The fingerprint lock on our front door disengaged, and Damian Rivers walked in naturally, as if entering his own home. I'd said countless times that I didn't want outsiders coming and going freely, especially Damian. But Rebecca never took my words seriously. When Damian saw me, panic flashed across his face, quickly replaced by manufactured grievance. "Ethan, where are you going? Did you get angry at Rebecca because of me again? I really didn't mean anything by it. Didn't you already call and yell at me?" I laughed from sheer disbelief at his ability to twist reality. The man could lie without his pulse quickening. Before I could speak, Rebecca pulled Damian behind her protectively. "Are you satisfied yet? Why did you call and verbally abuse Damian again? What did he ever do to you? If your jealousy has reached this level, are you even a man?" I pinched the bridge of my nose, exhausted, and looked at them coldly. "Rebecca, if I told you I never called him, would you believe me?" My tone was calm, but an imperceptible tremor ran through it. Rebecca paused momentarily, then her voice filled with mockery and disdain. "You're still accusing Damian of lying. You're disgusting." Suddenly, I felt tired. Too tired to explain. It felt pointless. I dragged my luggage and walked decisively toward the door. "Ethan Clark, get back here and apologize to Damian," Rebecca shouted. Damian grabbed Rebecca's arm at precisely the right moment, looking understanding. "Rebecca, forget it. Ethan didn't mean it. Don't be angry. It's bad for the baby." As he spoke, he reached out and gently stroked Rebecca's stomach. The gesture was blindingly intimate. "Bad daddy. You're a bad daddy." 5-year-old Nathan kicked my legs, defending the outsider. "Stop bullying my Uncle Damian. Go away. I don't want you anymore." The child I once treasured as my greatest blessing was now looking at me with strange, hostile eyes as if I were a villain guilty of unspeakable crimes. In that moment, my heart died completely. "Good. That's just perfect," I said with a cold laugh. "I wish you three a happy life together. Grow old side by side. Stop this performance in front of me. It makes me sick." With that final declaration, I didn't look at them again. I turned and walked out the door, never once looking back. I dragged my suitcase all the way to the bus stop, my mind blank slate. Returning to my parents' house was my last shred of hope, but reality delivered a crushing blow. My father sat on the sofa, speaking slowly. "What divorce? Rebecca's company is massive now. You really don't know how fortunate you are, son." My mother chimed in from beside him. "Exactly, Ethan. Your father is absolutely right. A man needs to be understanding. Don't talk about divorce so casually." I couldn't suppress my scoff. "Understanding? She brought her lover into our home. My child calls another man daddy. How much more understanding do I need to be?" "Watch your mouth." My mother's voice turned shrill. "What lover? That's such an ugly accusation. We've met Damian. We know his background. He treats you and Nathan well. Stop being so suspicious." I looked at them in disbelief. How could they disregard my life like this? "Are you serious? Rebecca is cheating on me, and instead of supporting me, you tell me not to be suspicious." I felt my voice trembling. "Are you even my parents?" At that moment, my younger brother Kyle poked his head out of his room, looking impatient. "Brother, stop making a scene, okay? Rebecca said she'll buy me an Audi once I get my license. If you actually divorce her, who's going to buy me my car?" My mother followed up quickly. "That's right, Ethan. You haven't worked in years. You have no income. How do you plan to survive if you divorce? Are you planning to leech off your elderly parents?" My father nodded in agreement. "Besides, even if she really did something wrong, isn't the child yours? For the sake of the child, you cannot divorce." Listening to their words, I felt a bone-deep chill. In their eyes, the humiliation and pain I suffered weren't worth mentioning. All they cared about was Rebecca's money and their own interests. I looked at them coldly as if looking at complete strangers. I said nothing more. I turned around, dragging my suitcase, and walked away. "If you still consider me your mother, get back here right now, my mother shouted behind me. I didn't turn back. I walked straight out of that house. The rental apartment was cramped and simple, worlds apart from the villa I'd lived in. I sat on the edge of the bed, completely drained, replaying the last 8 years in my mind. When we first married, everything was sweet. Back then, Rebecca hadn't started her business yet. I had a decent salary, and life, though ordinary, felt warm. Later, Rebecca wanted to start her own company. I didn't hesitate to withdraw all my savings to support her dream. To care for Nathan, I quit my job and willingly became a house husband. I thought my sacrifices would earn her appreciation. I never expected that everything would change after Damien appeared. My phone dinged with a message. It was Marcus, my college friend. "Hey man, saw your social media post. You looking for work?" Marcus and I had joined a gaming company together after graduation, both doing well. Later, when I gave up my career for family, he moved to a major tech firm. We hadn't stayed in close contact over the years, but our bond remained strong. 8 years of marriage had shrunk my social circle until almost no one remained. I hesitated briefly, then replied, "Do you have any leads? My company happens to be hiring for an operations position. The pay is excellent, but you'd need to spend time at our branch office in Denver. You willing to relocate?" I replied quickly. "I'll do it. I'm in." "Awesome. With you saying that, I'm relieved. But wait, didn't you marry a wealthy wife and retire to enjoy life? What happened?" "Don't ask. It's complicated." "Got it. I won't pry. Let's grab drinks sometime and I'll fill you in on company details." "Let's do tonight. I'm feeling suffocated and need a drink." I desperately needed an outlet to release the depression weighing on my heart. In a familiar bistro, Marcus and I sat across from each other. After several beers, I felt marginally lighter. "Brother, I hate to say I told you so, but I warned you back then not to give up your career for a woman." "You wouldn't listen," Marcus said, taking a sip of beer and speaking earnestly. "Now look where you are. Do you regret it?" I laughed self-deprecatingly. Who knew it would end up like this? With several beers coursing through my system, my head throbbed and my stomach churned. I can't handle this. I need to hit the restroom. I stood up unsteadily. As I passed a private booth at the corridor's end, I accidentally overheard a familiar voice. "Rebecca, is Ethan really going to file for divorce?" Damien asked cautiously. Rebecca scoffed. "Let him pretend. Can he actually leave me? What money has he made all these years? I've been supporting him completely. I've kept him fed and clothed, and he actually thinks he's the master of the house." But Damien wanted to say something but was interrupted. "You're just too kind-hearted. That's why he always bullies you." Rebecca's voice softened. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." Nathan chimed in cheerfully. "Mommy's right. That failure, what can he do besides cook and do laundry? Uncle Damien, can you be my daddy from now on?" "Nathan." Rebecca scolded coquettishly, but there was no real reprimand in her tone. "Mom, just divorce Dad so Uncle Damien can live with us permanently." I felt my stomach roll violently and the alcohol buzz evaporated instantly. I couldn't hold back anymore. I shoved the booth door open. "Ethan Clark, are you stalking me now?" Rebecca frowned when she saw me, her tone dripping with disgust. "You really are a lingering ghost." I glanced coldly at the food on their table, my gaze landing on the plate of watermelon in front of Rebecca. During her prenatal checkup, the doctor had specifically warned that her blood sugar was elevated and she shouldn't consume too much fruit, especially high-sugar varieties like watermelon. The doctor said you shouldn't eat fruit during pregnancy. Didn't you know that? "Ethan, why must you control everything?" Rebecca snapped. "Yeah, so annoying." Nathan joined in, smugly stuffing spicy pork into his mouth. "You control everything we eat." I hate eating with Dad. In the past, I managed their diet strictly for their health. They didn't appreciate it at all. Instead, they viewed me as meddling and overbearing. I pulled the divorce agreement I prepared from my jacket pocket and slammed it onto the table. "Since that's the case, sign it. You can't stand the sight of me anyway." The booth fell silent. A glimmer of joy flashed through Damien's eyes. He put down his chopsticks and made a show of persuading me. Ethan, look. Rebecca is pregnant and emotional right now. Don't take her words to heart. I sneered, looking directly at Damien. Isn't she carrying your little girl? What does it have to do with me? Rebecca stood up abruptly. What do you mean? Are you accusing me of something? Ethan Clark, don't go too far. I couldn't suppress my anger anymore. I pointed at Damien and shouted, I'm going too far. Who's the one crossing every line? When did he start appearing in your life like this? My child calls him daddy. Do you dare claim you two are innocent? Ethan, stop spitting venom at people. Your heart is twisted, so everything looks twisted to you. I was blind to marry you. I'm getting an abortion tomorrow. Looking at her, I suddenly felt exhausted beyond measure. I didn't even have the energy to argue. I said flatly, abort it then. Being born into this family would be a curse anyway. Can you sign now? Ethan, Damien tried to speak, but Rebecca grabbed him first. She stared at me, her eyes complex with conflicting emotions. Fine. I'll sign. She snatched the divorce papers and scribbled her signature furiously. Rebecca, Damien looked at her in disbelief. Rebecca didn't even glance at him. She threw the papers back in my face and said coldly, Are you satisfied now? Can you get lost? I bent down, picked up the papers carefully, and turned to walk out of the booth. Behind me, Rebecca roared, Ethan Clark, get out. Don't let me see you ever again in this lifetime. My footsteps paused momentarily, but I didn't look back. Walking out of the restaurant, a light drizzle had started falling. I stood by the roadside, letting the rain soak my hair and clothes completely. My phone rang suddenly. It was Marcus. Hey man, where are you? Why aren't you back yet? I'm fine, I said hoarsely. Don't worry about me. Go home. What happened? Is everything okay? Marcus sounded genuinely worried. Nothing major. Something came up. I'm heading out. I called a taxi and let the cold rain pour over me as if trying to wash away the humiliation and grievances of the past 8 years. When I returned to the rental apartment, I developed a high fever. My consciousness was hazy, but surprisingly, I slept soundly. In the middle of the night, my phone rang like a death knell. It was Rebecca. Nathan's heart suddenly hurts and he's having convulsions. What do I do? I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Take him to the hospital. What's the use of asking me? Do you not know what he ate tonight? Silence on the other end for several seconds, then Rebecca's angry voice erupted. Ethan, you. I didn't give her a chance to continue. I hung up directly and slept peacefully the rest of the night. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the curtains. I'd sweated out the fever. The illness was gone and I felt energized. I put on a suit I hadn't worn in years and went to report to the company with genuine high spirits. From this day forward, I was living for myself. The new job Marcus introduced me to was at a top-tier internet company. The compensation was generous and the career prospects were broad. He slapped me hard on the shoulder. Brother, I knew you had it in you. Look at this energy. Nothing like that wreck yesterday. Marcus looked relieved. If you need help with anything, just ask. I smiled gratefully. Thanks, brother. However, Rebecca didn't seem willing to let me go that easily. Just as I was settling into the new position, her call came chasing after me. Nathan refuses to eat. He's throwing a tantrum and wants the porridge you make. Her tone was filled with exhaustion and helplessness. I frowned, impatient. Didn't he say my cooking was tasteless garbage? Let Damien cook for him. Damien doesn't know how to do this kind of work. I scoffed. Neither do I anymore. Hire someone to take care of you and your son. With that, I hung up without hesitation and blocked her number. In the days that followed, I threw myself completely into work. With my solid professional skills, I quickly adapted and earned the appreciation of my superiors and colleagues. Previously, because Rebecca disliked it, I kept my hair in a docile short cut. Now, I let it grow out slightly and grew a beard. I looked more mature and grounded. After settling in at headquarters, I received my transfer orders. In 2 weeks, I would head to the branch office in Denver. While I was packing for the transfer, my former mother-in-law called. Her tone was unusually gentle. "Ethan, when are you free? We want to talk to you." "About what?" I asked coldly. "About Rebecca and the baby. We're divorced. There's nothing to discuss." There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then her voice lowered significantly. "Rebecca is talking about aborting the baby. Don't you think that's unfortunate?" I laughed coldly. "We're divorced. The child is hers. What does it have to do with me?" "Ethan, you were married for so long. Is this level of hostility necessary?" She tried to persuade me earnestly. "The child is innocent." I spoke with mockery threading through my words. "Margaret, weren't you always dissatisfied with me? Now that I'm divorced, you should be celebrating." A sigh came from the phone. "I was dissatisfied with you, true. But I'm even more dissatisfied with Damian Rivers. Do you really have the heart to let your child call another man daddy?" "I don't mind. Didn't Nathan call him that for 2 years anyway?" I spoke coldly. "All right, Margaret. I have things to do. I'm hanging up." After ending the call, I added her number to my blacklist as well. A knock sounded on the rental door while I was editing a PowerPoint presentation. I opened it to find Rebecca standing there. Her makeup was flawless, but it couldn't hide the exhaustion etched on her face. Behind her stood a frail-looking Nathan. He was pale and sickly. In just 1 month, he had withered dramatically. I leaned against the door frame, my tone indifferent. "How did you find this place?" Rebecca scanned the room with obvious disdain, frowning. "You left me to live in a dump like this. It doesn't compare to CEO Morgan's grand villa. If you're disgusted, take your son and leave. Can you just speak civilly for once?" Rebecca snapped. I sneered and ignored her comment. Nathan tugged at Rebecca's hand, whispering weakly, "Mommy, I'm dizzy." Rebecca touched his forehead lovingly. "Let's go inside and rest a bit." I didn't want to agree, but seeing Nathan's genuinely weak state, I softened slightly. I stepped aside to let them enter. Nathan looked around curiously, his eyes finally landing on my laptop. His eyes lit up with interest. "Dad, are you working?" I said coldly, "I'm not your dad." Nathan's eyes reddened immediately, tears swirling in them. Rebecca hugged him protectively and glared at me. "Ethan, can you stop treating the child like this? Why is Damian too busy to play the loving father?" I shot back. Rebecca was silent for several seconds, her tone weary. "We fought enough. Haven't you suffered enough? Come back with me." "Dad," Nathan looked at me pitifully. "Please come home. I feel really sick lately." "I told you I'm not your dad," I said firmly. Rebecca softened her voice considerably. "I haven't aborted the baby yet. If you're willing to return, I can keep it." I cut her off. "I won't go back with you. We're divorced. Please stop disturbing my life. Don't be ungrateful." Rebecca's voice rose sharply. "If it weren't for Nathan, do you think I'd come here to beg you? Look at him. Do you have no heart?" I turned my face away, deliberately ignoring Nathan's pleading eyes. What his condition has to do with me? Seeing my absolute resolve, Nathan started crying openly. "Daddy, please come home with us. I'm scared." I looked down at the child who had once called me a failure to my face. I felt absolutely nothing. "Nathan, stop begging him," Rebecca said, pulling Nathan up and glaring at me furiously. "He doesn't deserve to be your father." Rebecca carried Nathan toward the door. I watched them leave, completely expressionless. Even the deepest love can transform into mutual disgust. Before I left for Denver, my department held a farewell party. The atmosphere was festive until my phone rang at an inappropriate moment. "Hello." It was Nathan sobbing uncontrollably. "Dad, come back quick. Mommy is bleeding a lot. She fainted. Uncle Damian ran away." My heart skipped a beat and the alcohol buzz vanished entirely. Even though I hated Rebecca, I didn't want her dead. Where are you right now? At home. Stay there. Be good and wait for me. I hung up and immediately called emergency services. I told my colleagues I had an urgent situation and took a taxi straight to the villa. When I arrived, the ambulance was just pulling up. Rebecca lay on the bed, pale as death, surrounded by a shocking amount of blood. What happened? I grabbed a trembling Nathan and asked urgently. Mommy and Uncle Damien were in the room and told me not to listen. Then Uncle Damien got scared and ran out. Mommy started bleeding. I was scared. I suppressed my rage, feeling cold inside. The paramedics loaded Rebecca into the ambulance. I comforted Nathan briefly and got in with them. The entire journey, I could feel Nathan gripping the hem of my shirt tightly. The doctor said it was a threatened miscarriage compounded by a sudden heart episode. She was rushed into surgery immediately. I called her mother and explained the dire situation. Margaret rushed over within the hour. Seeing her arrive, I knew my part was finished. Margaret, I'm leaving. You're here now. I can't help anyway. Nathan hugged my leg, crying desperately. Daddy, don't go. Please. I'm scared. I'm not your dad anymore. Don't call me that. I pried his small hands off. Stay here with Grandma and be good. He looked up at me, eyes swimming with tears. Daddy, do you not want me anymore? My heart trembled slightly, but I spoke coldly. You were the one who didn't want me first. With those final words, I left the hospital ward without looking back. I knew it was cruel, but I truly couldn't face the mother and son like I used to. I've been in Denver for a month now. I changed my phone number completely, rented a modest apartment, and said goodbye to my past life entirely. The climate here is dry and pleasant, unlike the damp chill of Boston. The only thing I couldn't get used to was the food. Everything tasted slightly off. One day after work, I went to the supermarket near my apartment complex as usual. Passing the dumpsters, I heard faint whimpering. I stopped and looked carefully. A dirty little dog was curled up by the bins, emaciated, his fur matted with filth. A pair of wet eyes looked at me timidly. My heart softened unexpectedly. Without thinking, I took a sausage I'd just bought from my bag, broke off a piece, and offered it. The little guy was obviously starving. He wolfed it down gratefully. When he finished, he looked up at me cautiously, tail wagging slightly. Strangely, from that day forward, the dog followed me everywhere. Wherever I went, he was there like a shadow I couldn't shake. I couldn't help but squat down and pet his little head. It was fuzzy and oddly comforting. Little guy, are you all alone too? I asked softly, wondering if he could possibly understand. The dog seemed to comprehend. He nuzzled my hand and made a low whining sound. In that moment, I decided to adopt him. I'd always wanted a pet, but Rebecca hated them. She said they were unhygienic with a child in the house. Now that I was divorced with no strings attached, I could finally do what I wanted. I took the dog to the veterinarian for a complete checkup and bath, then bought food, a bed, and toys. He was remarkably well behaved. No excessive barking, no chewing on furniture. He adapted quickly to his new home. I named him Lucky, hoping he would bring me some good fortune. With Lucky's company, my life wasn't so monotonous anymore. Every day after work, I took him for walks in a nearby park, talking to him, playing with him. Lucky was incredibly intuitive. Whenever I was feeling down, he would lie quietly at my feet, looking at me with those wet, understanding eyes, silently offering comfort. Days passed like this, and my life gradually got back on track. Work went smoothly and my mood improved steadily, until that day when Rebecca suddenly appeared at my apartment door. When I opened the door, I saw she'd lost considerable weight. She was pale, her lips colorless. I looked at her expressionlessly. What are you doing here? Can I come in and talk to you? She bit her lip, her tone genuinely pleading. Behind her stood a thin Nathan. His previously chubby cheeks were gone, his skin sallow. Seeing me, his eyes lit up momentarily, but they quickly dimmed. He lowered his head, seemingly afraid to look at me directly. Say whatever you need to say right here. Rebecca looked around nervously, hesitating. Nathan suddenly spoke, his voice choked with sobs. Daddy, I'm sorry. I was terrible before. I shouldn't have said those hurtful things to you. Please don't be angry at me anymore, okay? Victoria finally spoke, her voice trembling noticeably. Nathan's sick. The doctor says he needs a bone marrow transplant. I'm not a match. Can you get tested? Nathan cried and begged desperately. Daddy, please save me. I don't want to die. Enough. Stop crying. I was annoyed and interrupted him impatiently. If you need a match, go to the hospital. I don't have time to waste with you. Rebecca snapped her head up, a glimmer of hope sparking in her eyes. Really? You agreed to get tested. I'm technically his father after all, even if the father-son bond was destroyed long ago. Rebecca smiled through her tears, excitedly trying to grab my hand, but I instinctively pulled away. She awkwardly retracted her hand, the light in her eyes dimming considerably. The results came back quickly. My bone marrow was a high-percentage match for Nathan. The day before the surgery, Rebecca took Nathan to the hospital for final checks. She and I sat on the bench outside the ward, waiting for results in uncomfortable silence. Victoria suddenly said quietly, Ethan, I broke it off with Damien. I laughed dryly. So what does that have to do with me? Ethan, I know I wronged you terribly. I was obsessed and blind. After you left, I realized how hard you worked for us. Nathan has to take medicine every day and go for checkups. I always thought you were just playing house. I had no idea how difficult it is to care for a child with a serious heart condition. I listened silently, saying absolutely nothing. Ethan, can we start over? Rebecca grabbed my hand desperately, her voice breaking. I know I was wrong. I really know it now. Please give me one more chance. I threw her hand off, my tone icy. I only agreed to save Nathan. Nothing else. Rebecca froze completely, tears streaming down her face unchecked. The surgery was successful and Nathan recovered quickly. On the day of his discharge, he looked at me timidly, his eyes full of longing and a desperate desire to please. Daddy, can you come home? I paused. Before I could speak, Rebecca rushed to say, Nathan, don't be difficult. Daddy has work to do. Nathan lowered his head, his small hands gripping his shirt tightly, eyes brimming with disappointment. Looking at the mother and son standing before me, I felt a complicated mix of emotions. He was my biological son. I couldn't be completely indifferent, but thinking of his past behavior, my heart hardened again. All right, I'm leaving. In the end, I didn't agree to return. I turned and walked out of the hospital without another word. I thought life would slowly calm down after that, but Rebecca acted as if she'd lost her mind. She showed up at my office every few days with some excuse. Today it was soup. Tomorrow it was lunch boxes. Ethan, I made your favorite chicken soup. Drink it while it's hot. She opened a thermos and a rich, savory aroma wafted out. I looked at her coldly. Rebecca, what exactly are you trying to accomplish? I just want to be good to you, she said softly. I pushed the thermos away decisively. Take it. I'm not eating it. In all our years of marriage, she never once stepped foot in the kitchen to cook. Now that we were divorced, she suddenly decided to play the virtuous wife. Ethan, I know I was wrong. Just give me a chance to make it up to you, okay? Rebecca, save your energy. We're finished. I waved my hand impatiently. Stop being an eyesore here and leave. Rebecca wanted to say more, but I'd already returned to working on my computer. That night, I worked late at the office. When I finally got home exhausted, I saw a small figure curled up at my door. It was Nathan. Why are you here? I frowned, my tone displeased. Nathan looked up weakly, whispering, Daddy, I missed you so much. I dialed Rebecca immediately. Nathan is here. Come get him right now. On the other end, Rebecca seemed to pause, her voice panic-stricken and pleading. The child just really missed his dad terribly. Please. I don't want to hear excuses. I'll give you 20 minutes. Get here. I hung up, telling myself firmly not to hold a grudge against the child. I let him inside reluctantly. Nathan sat on the sofa, head down, completely silent. A loud growl broke the silence, his stomach rumbling. He looked up and whispered, "Daddy, I'm hungry." Sighing, I grabbed a pack of instant noodles from the cupboard, boiled them with some greens, and set the bowl in front of him. "Thanks, Daddy." He took the bowl and ate ravenously. Ignoring him, I took a chicken breast from the refrigerator to boil. Then patiently, I used chopsticks to shred the meat carefully into Lucky's bowl. Lucky wagged his tail happily, circling me excitedly. I stroked his soft fur gently. "Good boy. Daddy loves you." Watching this interaction, the light in Nathan's eyes faded completely, his chopsticks pausing in midair. I cleaned up the kitchen and headed to my study to work. Just as I reached the door, I heard Lucky let out a sharp, pained yelp. Startled, I ran back to the living room to see Nathan kicking Lucky viciously. "What are you doing?" I rushed over and shoved Nathan aside firmly. Lucky whimpered pitifully, tail tucked, and scrambled under the sofa, trembling with fear. I picked him up carefully, checking for injuries. Thankfully, he was just frightened. "You're my dad. Why are you nicer to him than to me?" Nathan suddenly burst into uncontrollable tears, pointing accusingly at Lucky. "He stole my daddy. This kid was truly spoiled rotten by Rebecca. Completely unreasonable. Have you forgotten who didn't want me? Who kicked me out?" I looked at him coldly, my eyes devoid of any warmth whatsoever. "I regret it." Nathan sobbed desperately. "I want you back now." I stroked Lucky's fur soothingly, speaking calmly. "There's no medicine for regret in this world. You're growing up. You have to be responsible for your actions and their consequences." Seeing me completely unmoved, Nathan cried harder, curling his small body on the sofa like a wounded animal. It was all too late. Spilled water cannot be gathered again. A broken mirror cannot be made whole. Just then, urgent knocking sounded at the door. I knew immediately it was Rebecca. I opened it and she rushed in looking frantic. Seeing Nathan on the floor crying, she ran to embrace him protectively. "Nathan, what happened?" Nathan just cried and refused to speak coherently. I looked at Rebecca coldly. "Stop disturbing me. I genuinely detest you and your son." Rebecca looked up, her eyes red and swollen, acting as if she were the victim of terrible injustice. She wanted to say something, but I had zero patience for her nonsense. I slammed the door mercilessly, shutting the mother and son out completely. Lucky licked the back of my hand soothingly, whining softly, as if trying to comfort me. A few days later, Rebecca took Nathan back to Boston. Her company couldn't operate without her for extended periods. Before leaving, she tried desperately to leave Nathan behind, claiming he should spend more quality time with his father. Naturally, I refused outright. Lucky stood at the door, growling protectively at her and Nathan. Without them around to constantly annoy me, my days finally became genuinely peaceful. On weekdays, I focused intently on work. My performance metrics soared, and my boss praised me repeatedly. Rebecca would call occasionally to ask how I was doing or talk about Nathan's school and daily life. She acted like an old friend, carefully avoiding topics that upset me. I knew she was waiting patiently, waiting for me to forgive her, waiting for me to come home. But some wounds, even if they eventually heal, leave permanent scars that never truly fade. I simply had no love left for her whatsoever. Finally, my annual leave arrived. I decided to take Lucky on a proper trip. My request was approved quickly. I booked a flight to Montana. There were magnificent mountains and pristine rivers there, and the free life I'd always imagined. Lucky seemed to sense my joy and excitement, running energetically around the apartment, his tail wagging like a perpetual metronome. Before leaving, I received a call from Rebecca. Her tone was unnaturally calm, like she was a completely different person. "I heard you're going on a trip." "Yeah. To clear my head completely." After a brief silence, she whispered hesitantly, "Can you bring Nathan? He misses you tremendously." Honestly, I still held a significant grudge against Nathan. I couldn't pretend his hurtful words had never happened. "No. I don't want to see him." My tone was ice cold. Rebecca hesitated, then simply said, "Please. I'm begging you. I hung up directly, unwilling to continue the pointless conversation. The travel plans didn't change. Just as planned, I set off alone with Lucky, heading west toward freedom. The scenery grew increasingly beautiful and my mood lightened considerably. After arriving, I rented a jeep and drove with Lucky across vast plains, breathing the fresh mountain air, feeling a long-lost sense of freedom. We visited many spectacular places. We drove through stunning valleys, hiked challenging trails, and finally reached the high Montana Rockies. The snow-capped peaks were absolutely majestic, the sky impossibly vast. It felt like time itself was being cleansed by the scenery. I shouted at the distant peaks, screaming out all the depression I'd suppressed in my heart, screaming away the past that no longer belonged to me. Lucky ran excitedly beside me, then leaned against my leg affectionately, nuzzling my hand with his wet nose. He couldn't speak human language, yet he understood me better than anyone ever had. I didn't need a vessel to carry me through the storm anymore. I had become the storm itself, and then the calm that inevitably followed.